Welcome to Shallow. Two friends, two time zones, and a brand new topic every episode. This week, we're diving into how turning 30 for most feels like a deadline. For success, for beauty, for babies, and becoming that shining future self you always dreamed of. The Shallow take? 30 is just a number. So we're both not 30 yet, but the existential dread, it's in the room with us. It's here. It's creeping up
She's
on
here.
one of us more than the other. I'm not going to say
babes.
who.
Thanks, babe.
Just imply it. Just going to imply it. But, you know, I am like 11 months out. But anyway, Phoebe, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's obviously me. I'm like 3 weeks out. But I'm good. I'm enjoying Sydney. I'm loving you being here. We have
Still here.
the best recommendation. If you haven't watched this show, Heated Rivalry, you've got to watch it. It's so good.
I know, I kind of was like, Phoebe, there's this there's this show that everyone's like, the girlies are loving it. Basically it's two guys and like they play hockey and they get it on. They get it on in a big way from like 10 minutes in the first episode. I think that was the thing that shocked me the most. I was like, episode 1, I was expecting some build up, which was straight in there. And I was like, I'm about this.
Yeah, it took me aback, but in the best way possible. And honestly, I think it's rare I watch a TV show and I'm like, I have no notes.
Yeah, no notes.
No notes. It was
I think
so good.
we got the similar vibe that when Normal People was released,
Yeah.
and everyone binged that and absolutely went feral for it. I think it's the same. It's giving me the same nostalgic feelings that gave me.
Yeah.
I just didn't expect it in this way. I didn't expect it to involve hockey. I didn't expect it to involve gay like sex. Like I'll say that. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that for me, but it's hot as hell.
It's hot.
It's really hot. Though it's from a book series by Rachel Reed. I don't know the names of the books off the top of my head, but people absolutely, they love them. So yeah, that's also another recommendation. I think I could just give that recommendation without reading it because the show is just so good.
If the show's that good, the book's got to be pretty good too.
So I feel like we should just go straight into the deep end with this one. And I have to start by saying the title for this episode, 29 Going on 30, is mainly because, I watched 13 Going on 30 when I was a child. And I really genuinely thought when I would watch that that film that my life would be together by the age of 30. You have a hot partner, career at a fashion magazine, you have a killer apartment that you own outright. Nobody warned us that turning 30 might feel a little bit like a personal audit.
Yeah.
Which is how I've felt approaching it. And then even in the past couple of years, it's been a bit of a what have I got to check off, before, whilst I'm still 20. I don't know about you, but I spent a lot of my 20s panicking, just in umbrella term, just panic. I think a lot of people feel that way. And we have this invisible checklist, like I said, that we're kind of given, our financial checklist, our career checklist, our friendship checklist, relationships, you name it. We've both done almost a decade of our 20s now, which is scary.
Wild.
I just want to open the conversation just by asking how you feel in retrospect to how you feel now as you're approaching this new decade of your life.
Yeah.
It's coming, it's happening, it happens for all of us. Yeah, how do you feel about it?
Oh, I feel pretty good, to be honest. I think it's a nuanced answer. I think going into my 30s, which I will be probably by the time this episode goes out.
Planned it well.
Great timing. I look back at my 20s it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. That's the best way to describe that. It was the highs were soaringly high and the lows were crashingly low. And I think a lot happened in this last decade of my life, and I think if anything that actually I'm kind of looking forward to a fresh slate and going, I know that all of that stuff still happens. Turning 30 isn't like a fucking switch that just makes your past just disappear, and nor would I want it to. But I think so much of my 20s you're in the adolescence of adulthood, aren't you? You're really trying to figure yourself out as an adult, but you're still kind of a baby, but you're trying to cosplay as
mum,
this,
but also no mum.
Yeah, mum, but also I'm an adult. Do you know what I mean? You're kind of pretending to be this fully grown person. But I think going into my 30s, I definitely went through that roller coaster of oh my God, I'm really scared for this, to actually like, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Like the last year, especially if you've listened
You
to
kind of
our,
just get over it in a way.
you do. Like I think when life just keeps coming at you, and if you've listened to the endometriosis episode, you know what the last year and so of my life has looked like. It does just force you to be like, actually, you know what? Like we've gone through it. Turning 30s, it's not going to be that deep. We hope.
And obviously, you know, we touched on like the highs are very high, the lows are very low. Like in your 20s, I think anything that happens to you that could be seen as kind of like catastrophic or traumatizing, I think it kind of amplifies it, because you're thinking about how to navigate life, how to do university or not do university, how to make friends, or maybe, you know, pull away from friends that maybe aren't serving you anymore, as well with relationships. I know for me, you know, and I ended a very long-term relationship when I was like 21, 22, and that was, you know, like catastrophic at the time. And like, you know, now looking back, I'm like, thank God, thank God. But, you know, you go through these experiences and you're still working out how you're going to afford your rent, how you're going to, what job you're going to get next, what career path you want to go down, because that's always like, oh, what are you going to do? You know, when you come out uni, what are you going to do? What's your 5-year plan? Like, I don't know. When you're in your 20s, you don't know.
And in some ways that's the beauty of it, and that's the luxury, is that you're like, I don't know, and it's okay. I think I totally agree with that. When you were like, panic, like that's just all I felt for like years and years and years of like, what's next? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to navigate this? And it does feel as though everyone else is navigating it so much better than you are, which like, you know, comparison is brutal, especially when you're younger.
I liked I don't think you've said it, but cosplaying an adult, I think can kind of like describe the 20s experience. Because I think when you turn like 18, you're like, I don't need anybody. I'm independent. Like I want to go and like see the world, or I want to go and do this course, or I want to just like work on my own, and you know, I want to be separated from that kind of family unit. And then when you kind of are in your 20s, you're like, what have I done? And like, is this it? Like, am I just now on my own? Like, and how do I do this? And I think you were always like, well, I've got to be an adult. I've got to be an adult. And I think if anything I could say to myself is like, just kind of relax and enjoy it. I mean, I liked how you picked up on the comparison culture, because that's kind of what I wanted to hit on. I saw this article by Laura Hampson published in Glamour, and it was written as part of like her piece about turning 30 and the pressure around these kind of like life milestones that we've just briefly touched on. And she says one of the biggest challenges of reaching your late 20s is not getting sucked into comparison culture, and instead realizing that it's totally fine and not at all alarming that your peers are on different life trajectories to you. And I think that really hit a nerve, because I think the pressure at the moment of social media and influencers is at an all-time high. And obviously we're going into our 30s, maybe we kind of miss a little bit of it. But I remember, you know, being on social media and on Instagram, and you're seeing these influencers that are just having these like perfect lives. They're like traveling all around the world, like they're staying in different hotels, they're you know, they're becoming a CEO by 25. And I think a lot of people sit there and they're like, hold on a second. I've just finished my uni course and I've just got a part-time job at WH Smith. Like, should I be doing that as well? And I think that's where the kind of the depression and the kind of the weight of the anxiety of turning a certain age comes into play.
I think also when you're obviously in school and pretty much everyone's on the same level. You might get some people who like get a job, or like, I don't know, we went to school with someone who did YouTube back in the day, and she did really well, but that was kind of really rare. Most people were on like the same playing field of like, you know, you're all at school together and then you generally go to uni, or some people might stay home and get jobs, but it doesn't feel like anyone is kind of maybe shooting off into the stratosphere so much. Like most of it feels like a relatively level playing field. And then I think the further you get into your 20s, you get people who are like smashing it. And I don't say that in a bad way. It's amazing to see that, but you do turn it inwards and you're like, what am I doing?
And I think what people don't realise, it's such a small percentage, but it feels like massive. It's the majority of the percentage of people doing that. And it's not, it's a small amount. And I think it just made me think of the fact that Australia are bringing in this kind of like social media ban.
Yeah.
For like, is it plus 14?
Under 16s.
Under 16s. And I remember seeing like a BBC article that was, you know, these like 14-year-old like makeup influencers were like, you know, I've made all this time to make these connections with brands, and like I've done all this work, and I'm like,
It's wild.
That's crazy to me. And like, if that's starting at 14, are those kids that are on social media and they're seeing their peers at 14 you know, making loads of money, having brand deals, and thinking, oh well, I should be doing this at 14, whereas we're thinking, oh, we should be doing it in our 20s, and people are maybe even thinking that even earlier, like pre-20s, like early teens. It's crazy. And I found this really insane statistic that kind of shocked me, and I kind of surprised that it shocked me, because, you know, we go on about this a lot on the podcast, social media, but also we do say some good stuff about it. There is good parts, but from the Comparison Culture Report of 2023, which was a UK study, 89% of people feel unsatisfied with their life after comparing themselves to others on social media. And that's people feeling unsatisfied with their life, just like their life. And that was surveyed of 1,000 social media users aged between 16 and 24. And that's specifically about comparison culture and how they feel in opposed to like seeing people on their algorithm.
Gosh, that's such a high statistic, isn't it? And I do think that, you know, like when was because I look at you and I'm like, you're doing incredibly well, but do you feel satisfied with your life?
I think it's such a loaded question, and when we were planning this episode, I think you kind of brought it up to me, and I was like, I should be.
Yeah.
I really should be, because I'm in a really good job. You know, I live in a city that not a lot of people can live in London. I can come and see you, you know, on a whim in Sydney. You know, I'm very privileged in many ways, but I think it's like an automated response in people's minds that they're unsatisfied because there's always something to gain. There's always something that I could be doing more. I could have a higher job role. I could be paid more. I could have more time off, or I could see my family more. And there's always this like, and I think to an extent it's healthy to be like wanting more and to be in that mindset of like, oh, I could achieve more than I set out to do.
Yeah.
But then there's that, you know, the negatives, which is I'm never going to be happy because all I want is more.
Yeah. It's I know what you mean. It's exactly that thing of wanting more will be the thing that drives you, but on the flip side, like, you kind of get into that rabbit hole. And I think we see all this extreme wealth online, and also I think a lot of these kind of hyper wealthy influencers are the one that often do really well as well. So we're like bombarded with all of this imagery in this world that maybe we just wouldn't see otherwise. And I think it's so easy to then fall into that trap of, I don't have that, what am I doing wrong? When in reality, like, a lot of these guys are probably born into this world. Like, not to say they haven't
discuss how, so a lot of them don't discuss how
they
came to be.
Yeah. And like, you know, I'm not saying some of them don't work hard. I'm sure some of them absolutely have and deserve what they do have. But I think sometimes, you know, I see some of the kind of super, I don't even know what they're called, like luxury influencers, I guess. And I'm just a bit like, how did this happen? And I think we forget that. Like, we see the end sausage and we don't see how the sausage is made.
I think, as going back to like the shallow take of this episode, which is like 30 is just a number, and like, you know, everything seems to be online is 30 coded. Yeah. You know, it's this like Forbes 30 under 30. You see X things to do before you turn 30. It's like the fertility chats that you have with your doctor, they're often capped at like this 30 number is a crucial like marker. And yeah, it's like, it's just a number, but it's the number that we're going to use for everything female related and everything success related for a woman. And I think obviously that then like bleeds into this comparison culture that we're discussing. It's like, what have you done? What have you done in your 20s? You know, I know there's a couple of influencers that I follow that were like, yeah, I had all this written down to achieve by 25. And then by 25, I wanted to achieve this by 30. And it's like, that's great for a small percentage of people. The majority of people don't have their shit together, don't know what they're doing. And I personally think that's fine. Obviously, I'm sat here in retrospect thinking about it.
Yeah. I think also when you're in your 20s, because I mean, I would often read like, you know, those kind of like 30 things I learned by 30 or whatever, like the 30 coded articles. And it would always be like, relax, take your time, like make mistakes, stop panicking. And I think that's probably the exact advice I would have passed on to my younger self. But when you're in it, you can't do that, or you really struggle to do that.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, social media doesn't exactly, or like we said, doesn't show you the work that went into it.
Yeah.
And you know, no one's ever going to show you how they became emotionally mature
Yeah.
or emotionally stable or financially stable, or like how they made such deep friendships. And like, I think people touch on it occasionally, like you get like body positivity kind of like movements, and you get kind of like friendship movements, like, oh, you don't have any friends in London, like this is where you can do that, and it's kind of briefly touched on. But I think the majority of like influencers online are still geared towards like lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, look what you could have.
Yeah.
These are the brands that I'm working with. Spend your money.
Yeah.
And it just feels like maybe leading up to your 30s is what you can obtain, and not what you can like actually work on internally as a person.
Yeah, because that's not what sells, is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't go on Instagram, or maybe some people do, and be like, this is what I learned in my therapy session today. Obviously, there are kind of like therapy influencers and stuff like that, but like the main, you know, I feel like when we think about influencers, we think about kind of like luxury buying, selling, that kind of stuff. And yeah, actually, like the reality is we should be focusing on how we treat our friends, and being kind people, and being emotionally intelligent, and being empathetic, and, you know, fueling and nourishing ourselves in ways that are actually important.
I think that touching on the capitalist thing as well, like with the kind of like obtaining, gaining, and what you could buy and how much money you have, I think there's this new kind of like wave I've seen of like people treating their 30th like a wedding.
Yeah.
Which I love at the same time as I hate, because, you know, I think it's great to like, you know, I know a few friends that have done it because they're like, well, I'm not going to get married anytime soon, and
I'm not buying a house.
I can't buy a house. Financial stability doesn't exist as well as it did in the past. So I'm going to throw myself a massive party. But it's still kind of like, it's still perpetuating that idea that 30 is this big thing.
Yeah.
It's a big thing for a woman, because I don't think that any like 30-year-old guys are throwing themselves a wedding. It's almost like it's like the death of youth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is it a wedding or is it a funeral to your 20s? But no, I like to think of it as like it's an opening of a chapter and not a closing of a chapter.
100%. I think it's good to talk about the kind of the differences between genders here.
Definitely.
Because is it the same for men as it is for women turning 30?
I think it is different for men, and I just think there's a lot of differences in the genders in terms of like life experiences and what we go through. I think when I think of my partner, and when he turned 30, it didn't, I mean, he didn't like tell me, but it didn't feel like much of a like, oh my God, I'm turning 30. He actually seemed quite excited about it, because he was like, oh, this is the age where like my muscle mass becomes like the best it could be. And like, he was thinking about like how like physically fit he can get, because his muscles now matured a bit more. And I was like, sat there like, this is not what I think about.
Yeah.
But I do know that there is an other side to this, and I know there's like this kind of like Peter Pan syndrome with men. Like, what's your kind of experience of like family members or partners or people you know?
I think there's generally a bit of a, like, I do think turning 30 for women is harder, just because we have body clocks, there's a lot of societal stigma, there's a lot more around it in the kind of culture. That being said, I do feel like men do struggle with it. Yeah, like I think they think about aging a lot. I think they think about death a lot, and in slightly different ways, because I mean, they don't have body clocks to contend with in the same way we do. But I do think they do have like fears, and they don't want to age, which, I mean, who does, I guess. But I think it's very easy to forget that, when in a lot of times I don't think men take it too well either, in my experience.
What do you think the fears are, if you could list a couple?
I think it is that thing of like the fear of like of dying, to be honest. Like, that sounds a bit full on.
What you should have achieved, and even the comparison culture.
Yeah, I think a lot of the similar female things, like minus maybe kind of I don't want to speak for men. I don't know how necessarily they feel about like the physical sides of aging, but I think with men, it's like, with that side of things, it's like, oh, silver fox. Like, the aging for a man is almost like, heroed in culture, whereas like aging for women is kind
It's
of
like,
not.
yeah, I think this is a great time to call out our friend, Trisha Avery. We got her on the podcast, and she runs a TikTok account called Living Loudly, or Living Loud, and she really kind of champions like not letting yourself as a woman become invisible as you age.
Yeah.
And I think it really struck a nerve with us, because I think her target audience was for older women, but I think it really struck a nerve with us as younger women, because I think we have this fear. Clearly, we're doing this episode, we're talking about turning 30, we're talking about the fears of turning 30 and becoming a little bit older or going into that new era of life. And she talks about just not letting society make you invisible. And it does sound harsh, but I think it is the reality. You have, like you said, you have the silver fox with the man. You're like, oh, he's aging like fine wine.
Yeah.
Like, you know, isn't he so amazing? Like with Jude Law, it's like he's lost his hair, but doesn't he look great?
Yeah.
You know, and the narrative for women is a lot different. And youth, it does feel like this kind of social capital for a woman.
Yeah, it is. Like, I think it is. And then, speaking to Trisha Avery about that, like, that became really clear. And her whole shtick is to kind of basically be like, no, demand the attention, take up space, wear colourful clothing, like, you're still you, which I loved. And I think she was almost kind of surprised that it resonated so much with us as well, because, yeah, her demographic is over 60s. And I can't speak for a gender that I'm not, but I don't feel like men feel the same way in that sense, but I do feel like they have fears about getting older and aging, and
it's just in a different
ultimately.
category. Like,
Yeah.
we're afraid of becoming smaller and shrinking, whereas they're maybe afraid of like the inevitables that are going to arrive around the corner, like death, or, you know, when you have to retire, or when you buy and when you sell, and, you know, like those pillars, instead of the kind of the fertility pillars and the babies, and, you know, how am I going to financially support myself if I do have a child? I mean, we touched on this in our episode A Baby in This Economy, which, you know, was one of my favorite episodes and did particularly well actually across all platforms. And I think it's a topic that does resonate with people, and it is a hot topic at the moment because of the financial climate and the political climate. And it does kind of, I think, tie into this fear of getting older. And like, obviously we're talking about the number 30, but I think we are also talking about just the inevitable of getting older year on year on year as a female, and having that worry of like, I really don't want a child at the moment. I don't want to have to think about that. But every year I get a year older, and my age changes. And, you know, there's this whole thing of like, women don't like to talk about their age, you know? And then you kind of, when you're younger, you're like, oh, I'm 22, I'm 23. And then you do kind of go, oh, like, you kind of feel a bit like, maybe I shouldn't tell them my age. But like, I haven't got to that point yet. But I think maybe it's a kind of like, it is a thing in the back of my mind that's like, I'll meet a 25-year-old and I'll be like, yeah, I'm 29. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I'm just 29. Like you. I'm 29.
I'm the same age as you.
Same age as you. But you do feel, even though it's like 4 years or 5 years, it feels like a mile away.
Oh, it feels huge. Like,
Miles
I think,
away.
and I don't mean that in like, oh, I feel so much older, but like, God, I look back to like even 4 or 5 years ago, and I feel like a pretty different person, to be honest. Like, I think those ages are pivotal in like,
they're quick as well.
Growth. Yeah, like it kind of, you grow up and you grow up and you grow up, and then it feels like someone like hits the fast forward button and you're like, whoa, like, slow down. But I definitely feel quite markedly different at the back end of 29 than I did even like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, like, it feels like 30 is this like goal. It's like this, like, I think I used to think that when I was in my early 20s as well. I was like, I'll never be 30.
Yeah.
I think in your head you're like, I'll never be 30. I've got 8 years. I've got 7 years.
Well, you just
I've
don't
got
think you're
6
ever
years.
going to grow up.
No, you never
you're
think.
Like, oh,
you never
I'm going to be
think
young
you are.
forever.
And I think that's what I think scares me the most is turning 30. I think when it's not the number 30.
No.
It's the fact that I've got there now, and then I'm going to be 31, and then 32, 30, and then it's just keep going.
Are you really scared about aging?
I'd say I'm less than I was. I think 2 years ago, if you asked me the same
out.
question, I would be like, no, I don't want to talk about it. I think now I'm feeling a bit more like comfortable in my situation, in life in general. And I think that's a like consensus across the board with a lot of people. Like when they kind of approach 30, they're thinking, oh, maybe this is maybe what I want to do, or how I'm, I feel a bit more comfortable with who I am, and maybe I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I can kind of see the path now, whereas before maybe I didn't see the path and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I was, you know. But I do think this like whole like married with 2.5 kids by 30 thing
What
is
even
dying.
is that anymore?
You know, what even is that? It's not the blueprint. But what is the blueprint? Because it does feel like there is something we're supposed to be achieving, but it's more vague.
It is, and I think in some ways that's a really nice thing. And I think for us, like, we had the benefit of so many options, and it was almost like a gift and a curse, wasn't it? Because it was like, fuck, I could go to uni, I could take a gap year, I could stay at home and get a job, and we're so privileged in having that. But it also was like, oh god, I don't want to make the wrong decision.
Whereas you could have made the wrong decision 5+ times and still probably been sat here in the same situation, you know.
Exactly. Like, you know, what are these alternative timelines anymore? And I think one thing I always loved about especially like my group of like home friends is that we all had really different trajectories. And I really loved that, because that felt like, you know, the richness of life, not to be a bit cringe, but like it just felt like everyone was kind of in their pocket of doing what they wanted to do, or, you know, if they wanted to be at home, they were staying at home because they loved their hometown, or if they were like, actually, you know what, I need something different, they were heading up to London or Manchester or elsewhere. And I think that's actually a really amazing thing that we've been gifted as this generation. I feel like we focus a lot has been taken away from us, and, you know, like house buying privileges, and you know, a lot of economic issues, and, you know, we're in such an unstable political climate at the moment. And, you know, I speak to my dad about this a lot, and he was always like, oh, the 70s was great, and I was like, good for you. I love that for you. But I think one thing that I really have enjoyed about my 20s is feeling less like more as though, like, you know, the world's my oyster and I can go and do these things, and that's been really nice.
So you've like kind of cashed in your like your house buying ticket to kind of have these more options.
A little bit, like, and I think that's a lot of what, you know, your 20s. It doesn't feel like a trade-off, because like you have the luxury of time, like that's your currency in your 20s, isn't it? It's like, you know, you have the time to do all this stuff. But I think one thing that was, you know, taken, I guess, from us is like, you know, it was like, okay, do you want to travel or do you want to buy a house? Because you probably can't, you know, you probably can't do both unless you're lucky or you're super high earning. And I think you kind of have to pick your poison. You're like, okay, am I going to go super stability, and am I going to set down some roots here? And that's not to say you also couldn't revert that at any stage. But yeah, I've probably been like, I want to go and do some things.
I think as well, it's also about changing the narrative of the timeline of that. I think a lot of us have this, and especially me, you know, you have this image in your head that you have to have done all these things in your 20s to then progress to the next chapter of your life. Like you have to like do all these ding 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 tick tick tick, and then you can open the door and feel calm about going into your 30s. But really, you don't have to have all those things ticked.
No.
You can just you can also figure them out. You're still young, you're still like, and also like you're going, you know, this is everybody's first time on earth. Like this is your first time being a human being. And like whether you're 30, 40, 50, 20, 18, like everybody is still figuring stuff out. I think that's what you gain as well. Getting older, and what I've gained is I see my parents, I see my family members more as human beings rather than parents. And I think, you know, you forgive people for stuff that they, you know, that they've done or they do, because you think, well, you're also still learning about life. You know that, you know, your parents don't always have the answers to everything. And I think that's something that you learn with time. And like in your 20s or your early 20s, you maybe are a bit more selfish and you don't see that side. And I think the privilege of getting older is also the privilege of understanding the people around you more as well.
Your worldview opens up a little bit more, and you're like, oh yeah, these my parents are humans too. Like this is their first go around. Also,
I think that gives you a little bit more compassion for people. And I think but if you're giving compassion to other people, you've got to give compassion to yourself, right? And you've got to give compassion to yourself aging, you know?
Yeah.
So I just want to ask for a little bit of advice before we wrap up.
Oh, all right. Jeez. Okay.
So what is one thing that you wish somebody had told you about approaching 30 when you were younger, or one piece of advice you'd give your younger self who might be spiraling about this time right now of you sitting here?
You're going to go through so much worse than just a birthday, so like grow up.
I was like, bring the deep, you know, philosophical paragraph. No, short and sweet, love it.
Yeah,
I
like,
think it's true. Yeah,
it sounds a bit depressing, and I wish I could give like some sugary piece of wisdom, but I think it is pinned up there as like this huge birthday, and we should celebrate it, right?
Yeah.
Aging is a privilege, but it also comes with everything we've spoken about: fertility panic, career panic, burnout, friendship problems, like all of that kind of stuff. But I think, yeah, from my personal lens, like 20s was tough, and actually I was like, I'm actually kind of looking forward to putting it more in the rear view.
it's more like you just want your nervous system to chill the fuck out. Like
a regulated nervous system.
a regulated nervous system would be great.
Yeah,
please.
What's your advice?
I think you don't have to have everything worked out. I think that's something that I did used to do this when I was like a kid as well. I'd always have like checklists in my head of what I should be doing and how I should be doing it and why I should be doing it. And it's all these like hows and whys and whens and, you know, these anxieties. It is just like pure anxiety all the time that you should be doing more. And, you know, I recognized it at the top of the episode. It's like, am I happy with my life? I should be. And I think going as somebody in their 20s listening to this, I think just take a step back, look in the mirror and just think like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
We're learning. We're going to figure it out, whether that's now, whether that's in a month, whether that's in a year. It doesn't matter. Just everybody's on their own timeline. And I think it's really, really important to, if you feel like you're going down the trap of looking and comparing yourself to other people, whether that's in person or whether that's online, you need to really either like address that in like a therapeutic setting, talk to friends about it, talk to family about it, because it can spiral into kind of like a depressive state. And I think a lot of people feel that way and they feel sad about themselves.
Yeah.
And
that would be my other advice.
Yeah.
Go to therapy.
Yeah, and just enjoy life while you're young as well.
Yeah.
As well as when you're older.
Yeah.
Enjoy life when you're older. That was a very convoluted, long explanation, but yeah, I think try and enjoy it as much as possible. There are things that are gonna hit you like a nail across the head. Like, obviously life happens, shit happens, bad things will happen. It's harder, I think, when you're younger to deal with those.
It hits you harder. It does, because you're learning how to cope with all these new experiences. So everything does just smack you around the face that much harder, I think, when you're in your 20s and below as well, not just like, and I don't think that magically changes the moment you hit 30. And I think, you know, people are well within their rights to free, like, as much as we're like, age is just a number, shallow take, and it is just another birthday, but also the way it is built up in society, I think anyone has the right to have a panic about it, and that's also totally normal and fine.
So you think it's really that deep, turning 30?
I'm going to go down the middle here. It is, but it shouldn't be. I think just throughout all this episode, you know, you've got societal stigma, you've got comparison culture, and I think as a society we have built up this birthday, when in reality, if we're going to take it right down to ground zero, it's another day, it's another birthday as any other would be. But I also think aging is a privilege and it should be celebrated, hitting these milestones. I don't think it should be seen as like just another day. I think in my mind I've tried to reframe it and just be like, you know what, actually, if anything, I probably feel more confident approaching this age, and I'm like, fuck it, you know what, I am viewing it as not a checklist as such, but I was voice noting a friend about this earlier, and I think, you know, she's 6 months off and I'm like 3 weeks off, and I think if anything it's been a boot up my ass. I've been like, the things I've been like fearful of, I'm like, no, we're going to attack those, we're going to do that stuff now. Like, you're coming up to 30, you got to put your big girl pants on, like, and if anything I'm kind of trying to view it as like a little bit of a challenge, and to attack the things that I've been like, oh, I'm scared of that, or I'm going to put that off. So yeah, it's a convoluted answer, but I think that I'm trying to work to reframe it in my mind, and, you know, the day's coming regardless.
Yeah, I think I'm in the similar boat, like reframing what it means. I think, you know, in my 20s, like, you joke about people turning 30, like, oh, you're turning 30, so old. Yeah. And like, and then you very, very quickly become almost 30 and you're like, oh, well, no, I'm actually just the same as you. And you feel the same. You pretty much, a lot of 30-year-olds look exactly the same as they did when they were 25. Like there's not really much change. It's just that societal pressure that is so heavy. And I think if we can alleviate the heaviness by celebrating it like a wedding, or like making it something to be proud of, to be turning 30, and not this thing that also, do you have a house? Do you have this? Have you done this? It's like, no, like, this is my life, this is who I am, and I'm just going to continue living it regardless of my age, but I'm so happy to be here. And in a healthy body, hopefully healthy mind, and a healthy state. And I think that is something to be proud of in itself.
Yeah, and not to get too morbid, but some people don't have the privilege of making it to this age.
Exactly.
And I think we have to remember that when we're getting fucking smacked around the face with like
Really?
retinol ads and aging and
And we're getting lost in the source of our own kind of selfish compass of wants and needs.
Exactly, which is so normal as well. But like, I think, you gotta hoik yourself out of that and be like, I'm really fucking lucky to be here.
There's only one thing left to do, and that's close the book.
Yeah, baby.
Goodbye, 29.
Bye-bye. And now it's time for...
And what a pile of bollocks!
Something that just riles us up, fucks us off, makes us mad. Lucy Bell, Boosie Lel, what have you got?
Okay, please don't come for me. Please don't come for me, because I know it gives people joy, but Disney adults...
Oh...
I know it gives people joy. I know you love it. I know you like wearing the Mickey Mouses. It gives me the ick. I'm sorry. I can't see your 15th trip to Disneyland on my social media feed anymore. And I know that's a me problem. I'm still following you. I'm watching it. I'm indulging myself in it. I should probably just not look at it. I don't know what it is, but I'm like, why are you doing this? What is it about Disneyland that just like brings like adults to I
think it's about like your inner child being
which makes me sound like a dick. I know, but it makes me cringe. I can't help how it makes me feel.
Why do you think it makes you cringe?
I think it's the Mickey Mouses with the tiny backpacks. I can't stand them. I can't stand
the accessories
them. Take them
trigger
off.
you.
It's the accessories, maybe. I think I'd personally I've never been to Disneyland. I think I'd
Have
personally...
you not?
No, I think I'd personally
really
like
enjoy
it. I just would not want to be labelled as a Disney adult.
No. Do you watch like would you watch...
I'm obsessed with Disney films.
Yeah, you know.
I love them. I love Pixar. I love Disney. Finding Nemo is one of my favourite films. I love it.
Finding Nemo is my least favourite film. I hate it.
Well, that's my next. What a pile of bollocks. People that hate fucking Finding
hate
Nemo.
That film.
You hate that film?
Dory is stupid. I hate it. Sorry, I hate it.
I just can't speak to you anymore. Wow. Well, we've learned things about each other. Don't even know what to say. It's in like my top 3.
What a great way to end.
Yay!
Yay.
Disney adults in the bin.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Shallow. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could leave us a review. It makes a huge difference in helping others to discover the podcast. We always want to hear from you, so feel free to slide into our DMs or follow us on Instagram @shallowpod, or send us an email at shallow@boxedoff.studio. Shallow is a Boxed Off production, written and hosted by Lucy Bell and Phoebe Whittle. We'll see you next time.